Okay, everyone. So we're recording the shiur. השיעור יהיה לעילוי נשמת אסתר בת משה ולעילוי נשמת כל חולי ופצועי עמו בית ישראל. Just say welcome to everyone. Yesterday it was a bit of a lot of noise, so we decide that today what we're going to do, I'm going to make the show, I'm going to mute everyone. If anyone have any question, just raise your hand and I'll look at the photos, at the videos, and I'll see if you have questions. Then I'll mute you and we'll continue. So the subject of the shiur today, just before, L'Refuat Reuven Haim ben Alia. Please God, speedy recovery for Reuven Haim ben Alia, that's the father of Shimi, just to let you know. Baruch Hashem, he's done quite a bit of a progress and we all very, very happy. So the subject of the shiur today, it's gonna be Shvi'i Shel Pesach. Tomorrow night, it's gonna be the night of Shvi'i Shel Pesach, and we're gonna learn what is the Shvi'i Shel Pesach, what's happening in the Shvi'i Shel Pesach. So on the 21st of Nisan, okay, that's the last day of the festival of Pesach in Eretz Israel. Obviously in the Extra, we have an extra day, that's the 22 of Nisan. Okay, that's going to be Shmini Shel Pesach. That means that tomorrow night we start a special night that's called the 27th, the 7th day of Pesach on the 21st of Nisan. Where is the source for that? And there's a lot of things that we're going to speak in the show, and you'll see that that's actually a very interesting festival, not like all the other festivals. So first of all, the source for it comes from Sefer Shmot in Parashat Bo, in chapter 2, in verses 15 and 16, the Torah tells us, Shivat Yamim Matzot Tochelu, that means 7 days you should eat matzah, but on the first day, you should not have se'or, but the first day of Pesach, you should not have any unraised or leavened bread, okay? Se'or, it actually means it's referring to the east, not in your house, okay? And then it's continuing, say, umiyom harishon ad yom hashvi'i, from the first day to the 7th day, I'm just skipping a bit, okay? It's called Mikrai Kodesh, include the 7th day. What it means, Mikrai Kodesh, it's a holy day, that it's a festival. What does it mean? Be'ezrat Hashem, now we're going to start. So Be'ezrat Hashem, na'aseh v'natzliach, ve'Hashem alenu berahamav yarviach. So what happened, Rabotai, in the 7th of Nisan? That means on the 7th day of Pesach, sorry, on the 21st of Nisan, my mistake, on the 7th day of Pesach. What happened exactly? So according to the tradition, Hazal tell us in the Machilta that the splitting of the sea occurred on the 7 days of Pesach in the morning. The Mefarshim explain, how do you get to it? That's the question everyone asks. How did you decide that on the 7th day of Pesach was the splitting of the sea? So the Mefarshim explain like this. If we take the day that we left Egypt, that was Tedvav. Tedvav is the 15th of Nisan. Nachon? What happened on the 15th of Nisan? Bnei Israel left and they start marching the wilderness. Pharaoh, Rashi say, if you look there on him, that Pharaoh sent with the Jewish people spies because he was agreed that Bnei Israel will leave for 3 days, and after 3 days, they will come back. After 3 days that Bnei Israel didn't return, those spies returned back to Egypt. That was on the 4th day. On the 4th day, they gone back to Egypt. They told Pharaoh, listen, Bnei Israel have no intending coming back to Egypt. You can forget about it. If you think that they're gonna come back, we have a surprise for you. Pharaoh starts taking his army his people and start giving a chase to the Jewish people. After 2 days, okay, at night he catch up with Bnei Israel. That means already the night of the 7th. On the night of the 7th, the Egyptian caught up with the Jewish people. So you're all gonna ask, how can it be? The Jewish people, just remember, it was male, female, kids, everyone. What's happening in a situation? Happened something very interesting. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on that night that the Egyptian catch up with Bnei Israel, put the cloud of glory around them. And all of that night, and Hazal said specifically, all of that night was darkness. What do you mean darkness? That's the question of Hazal. Hazal explained that that night, if you remember carefully in our Shaurim, we explained that one of the plagues that we have 6 days and not full 7 days was Makat Hoshech, Rabotai. If you remember, the first 3 days it was darkness, that no one can see each other. The second part of Makat Hoshech was that on those 3 days, no one, if a person was stand up for 3 days, he didn't lie down. A person that was lying down never stood up. It was such a dark and thick darkness. So the 7th day, that one day that was missing, the 7th day of that plague came on that night when on Shvi'i Shel Pesach, the Mefarshim explained. What happened there? Happened there something very interesting, that Hazal telling us that that night, all night, the Egyptian was cursing, swearing, shooting arrows, trying to hurt the Jewish people, throwing stone, cursing the Almighty. But the cloud of glory stood up. Early in the morning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, carry on, start marching towards the sea. When they arrive to the sea, they have a problem, because the sea, Hazal tell us, that was Hamishim Amah. If you take Hamishim Amah, some people say Me'ah Amah, that means 25 to 50 meter each wave. Bnei Israel didn't know what to do. They was in a dilemma. Behind them is the Egyptian. In the front of them, there is a sea like a tsunami. They didn't know what to do with themselves. They all decide now what to do. Hazal tell us something very interesting happened on that night and that morning, that the Jewish people been split to four different kind of group. One group say, let's go back to Egypt. The second group say, you know what, let's commit suicide. The third group say, no, we're going to fight them. The fourth group say, no. None of those. We're going to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to redeem us. And that's what's happened. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Aten taharishun ve'ani elachem lachem. That means HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself say, I'm going to fight for you. You don't have to do nothing. Don't do nothing. I'll do the war for you. And that's what's happened. But the Jewish people was frightened. No one wanted to go into the sea. The first one, Hazal tell us, that jump into that wave was Nahshon ben Aminadab. Nahshon ben Aminadab was the head of the tribe of Yehuda. He was the first one to jump into the sea. What happened? As he jumped into the sea, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that we done the Ishtadlut, he split the sea. The sea got split to 12 pathways. That means each walkway, each pathway was a different tribe. The tribe of Yehuda have one, the tribe of Reuven have one, the tribe of Levy have one. And that's how they start crossing the sea. They're going from one side to the other side. While they was in the sea, they returned back. Not like many people think that they're going from one side of the sea to the other side. No, they gone all around. From the same point that they start, that's where they came to the last point. And when they arrived there, as the last of the Jewish people gone into the sea bank, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put all of those walls of water on top of the Egyptian. Many miracles happened there. For example, the ground was dry, not wet. That's one of the miracles. Not only that, when Bnei Israel gone cross, we know that the sea is very salty. They wanted to drink, they put their hand, they drank. It was sweet Aquazenia water made in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's land. Many, many miracles. What happened then? As the sea came down on the Egyptian and they drowned, Moshe Rabbeinu and Bnei Israel start singing, start praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Az Yashir Moshe Uvnei Israel. Okay? So we learn from here that Shirat Hayam was in Shvei Shel Pesach. That's going to explain to us why are we reading the parsha of Shvei Shel Pesach dafka about Shirat Hayam, about the song of the sea, Shirat Hayam. Not only that, if you look carefully, the haftarah that we sing on Shvei Shel Pesach is the haftarah in Sefer Shmuel Bet. In Sefer Shmuel Bet, in chapter 22, verse 51, there is something very interesting. There we see the Shirat David HaMelech. It's the song that David HaMelech singing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Hazal in Masechet Megillah, in page 31, folio 1, explain, you know what's happened there? There David HaMelech speaking about the splitting of the sea, and he's singing a song to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, let me summarize quick. We learn from here that Shvei Shel Pesach, you're learning that the splitting of the sea occurred. The miracle of the splitting of the sea happened on the 7 days of Pesach. Now, Sean, you wanted to ask? No. Anyone wanted to ask question? I'm just looking. No, no one. Okay, so I'm going to continue. Linda, any question? Okay, I'm going to continue then. Now, I would like to move on and to look with you, Be'ezrat Hashem, together, the similarity that happened on Yetziat Mitzrayim, that was the 15th of Nisan, remember, and the similarity that happened, that occurred on the 25th of Nisan, that's the splitting of the sea. So basically what I'm going to try and do together with you, that we're going to look together about the similarity that happened in the day of the Exodus and the day of the splitting of the sea. Let's look together. So we see that what's happened on the Exodus. Let's start with that. On the Exodus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on its 15th of Nisan, made something very interesting. He brought, before he took us out of Egypt, he brought the plague of the firstborn. What happened in that plague? That he killed the firstborn of Egypt. Okay, until here we understand. What's happened in Kriyat Yam Suf, that he split the sea, that's a different miracle. But how does it fit together? We know that in Makat Bechorot, in the plague of the firstborn, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made something very interesting. What did he make? He commanded the Jewish people to take the blood of the lamb that they shech, that's Korban Pesach, the Pesach Korban, and with that, they mixed the blood of the Brit Milah, and he commanded them to put the blood over the door frame, around the door frame. That here we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded Bnei Israel to do one act, but from the other way, what did he tell them? Not to leave their houses. Similarity to that happened in Kriyat Yam Suf. What happened in Kriyat Yam Suf? Bnei Israel, when they walked through the sea, they have חומה מימינם and חומה משמאלם. That means that the water turned to a wall and surrounded them. The boat was protected. That means we see the similarity that happened in a miracle that happened to the Jewish people where? In the Exodus, when they left Egypt. Later on, they have a similarity of protection by HaKadosh Baruch Hu guarding them, that when they go through the sea, there is also a wall to protect them. They're not exposed to nothing. Another idea for similarity to what's happened, to show the resembling between them. In Makat Bechorot, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Bnei Israel that him himself gonna bring the plague on the Egyptian. That means he gonna do the plague himself on the Egyptian. Where do we learn that? It said there. What does it say? Ani velo malach, ani velo saraf. We say it in Haggadah. Here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself say, I'm gonna bring the plague, me, and not the angel. Me, and not the angel of fire. And what's happened in Kriyat Yam Suf? HaKadosh Baruch Hu done it the same. And the splitting of the sea, HaKadosh Baruch Hu done the splitting on himself. What did it say? How do we learn that? That it say, La gozer Yam Suf ligzarim. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu split the sea to 12 different pathways. Not only that, what did we say earlier? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe Rabbeinu said to the Jewish people, Hashem ilachem lachem v'atem taharishun. By the way, the source to it, that come in Sefer Shmot, chapter 14, verse 13. There Moshe Rabbeinu said to Bnei Israel, listen, you don't have to do nothing. All of you, group that you decide to do different things, you're wasting your time. Just leave it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he'll deal with that. Atem taharishun, you keep shtum. The Hashem ilachem lachem. The Almighty gonna do his job. The Almighty gonna fight for you. And that's what exactly happened. We saw that in Makat Bechorot, HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished the firstborn in every house, anywhere from the Egyptian. None of the Jewish people got harm. And the splitting of the sea, Rabotai, was the same. HaKadosh Baruch Hu done the miracle himself. Not only that, none of the Jewish people got harmed. None of them got drowned. None of them have a problem. Now I'm going to stop and I'm going to give, I see Adrian want to ask a question. I'm going to go, where's Adrian? Adrian, I'm looking for you. Okay, Adrian, you there. Okay. Adrian, you want to unmute yourself and ask the question. Yes.
Rabbi Levy, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu made 12 paths, in other words, for each tribe, how did we know which tribe we belonged to at that stage?
Oh, very good question. Very good question. So Adrian asked, after so many years in Egypt, how everyone knew who they belonged to. So if you look carefully, Adrian, at if you read carefully at our Torah, you'll see that towards the end, before Bnei Israel enter Eretz Israel, while there was in the wilderness, it says something very interesting in the Torah. Al iskei mishpachteim. What it mean, al iskei mishpachteim? That mean that Bnei Israel only got allowed to intermarry one each other. That means the tribe of Reuven can marry from the tribe of Shimon only after the Eretz Israel. That means until then, they used to keep their own tradition. They used to keep to their own. Every tribe kept to their own, and they used to marry one each other. They never integrate with the rest of the tribes. You follow? So for all of those years that there was in Egypt, during the slavery, during whatever it was, they still kept marrying amongst each other. When I say each other, that means the same tribe. When did that happen? That they can remix and marry out of their tribe? Only when they enter Eretz Israel. You follow?
Yeah,
Any
but
other
Rob,
questions?
how did they know? Rob, sorry to worry you. How did they know that they belong to a specific tribe? How did they know they belong to Yehuda or they belong to?
I understand where you're coming from. So to start with, let's say that the grandfather, the great-grandfather, he passed it to his own kids. And he said to his kids, listen, my parents was from the tribe of Judah. You are from the tribe of Judah. You only amount to married from the tribe of Judah. So everyone knew which tribe he is because they all kept the tradition. Because Hazal tell us, and the merit of certain things, Bnei Israel merit not to stay in Egypt. One of them is, number one, Shelo Shinu Shmam, that they didn't change the name. Number two, Shelo Shinu Lebusham, that they didn't change the clothes, the way that they dressing. Number three, Shelo Shinu Leshonam. Okay? Not only that, I see Sean want to ask a question. Sean, I'm gonna give you a chance now. You can unmute and we look at that. And so we see from here that something very interesting happened. What happened? Sorry, I'm just doing something. We see from here that the only thing that kept them, that they stayed because they didn't keep, because they kept to certain amount of the tradition and they knew who they belong. That means Shevet Yehuda, the parents, the grandparents, make sure that each one of the grandchildren knew who is he belong and where he have to be and with who he have to be. You follow, Adrian? Sean, you can unmute and you can ask your question, please, Sean.
Thanks, Rob.
Pleasure. Sean, bechavod.
Rav, I put the question in the group chat.
Yeah. Ask it. I want everyone to ask.
I wanted to know what is the for Sepharad, the halakha, or actually, and for Ashkenaz, for staying up tomorrow night like we do to learn, because I see some people.
So I'm going to speak about it. I'm going to give that also
what do we
part of the show. I'll get to it now. I'll get to it, and we'll go from there. Now I would like to move on in the show and to see something very interesting. We all know that Shvi'i of Pesach, there is also Shvi'i of Sukkot, the 7th day of Sukkot. But we'll see that Shvi'i of Pesach, it's completely different from the Shvi'i of Sukkot, the 7th day of Sukkot. How do we know that? If you look something very interesting, and focus on that. On Shvi'i of Pesach, we did not say Birkat Shehiyanu. We don't have Birkat Shehiyanu in a Kiddush. Not only that, if you look carefully in Birkat in Shvi'i of Pesach in the morning, we don't say full Hallel. Rabotai, we don't say full Hallel. We don't say full Hallel. It's a different. That means that if you look at it, what is Shvi'i Shel Pesach? Shvi'i Shel Pesach, it's a continuation of part of one festival. When in Sukkot, when we have Shmini Atzeret, that's a different Hag completely, because there we say Hag Shmini Atzeret Hazen Ya'aleh v'yavo. Not only that, we say Shehiyanu. We say a full Hallel with a brocha. That's the difference of Shvi'i of Pesach. Shvi'i of Pesach come to tell us that Shvi'i of Pesach, the 7th day of Pesach, it's part of Pesach, but it's just the last day. It's not a different festival. It's one festival, but it's the last day of Pesach, and we don't say Shehiyanu on it. We don't say Hallel, a full Hallel. As I explained, the Sfaradim don't say brocha because it's not a full Hallel. So that's the difference between the Shvi'i of Pesach and Shvi'i of Sukkot. Let's continue, and now I'm going to get to the minhagim. There is certain minhagim that we're doing on the 7th day of Pesach. And that's one of the minhag, it's to stay awake all night and to learn Torah. Shoni, you with me, yes? And that's what I'm going to speak. Where is that custom start? That custom start, okay, by, I think if I'm not mistaken, by Divrei Ari, they're bringing it, that they used to study all night. It's also custom of the Hasidut Chabad, the Lubavitch, also sit all night and they study Torah all night. Now, Sean asked, correct me if I'm wrong, what should we study? So if you look at the Mahzor, the Sephardi Mahzor, usually have Kir'ei Moed. Kir'ei Moed, it's what we should read in a Moed, in a festival. And there they speak about that we should read about all the miracle that HaKadosh Baruch Hu done to the Jewish people before and after they left Egypt. That means all the 10 plagues, to try to understand, to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to glorify Him for all what He done to us. And that was Leila Seder. That was especially on Leila Seder that we sit together on a table and we praised and we glorified and we thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu to what He done to us. So in Kir'ei Moed at night, we're reading all of those verses from the Torah, okay, that speak about all the miracle that happened before and the miracle that happened after to Bnei Israel when they left Egypt and much later. You follow? Okay. Now, is anyone have any other question? Please, you can unmute yourself and ask.
So, Rabbi Levy, it said that...
Yes, Louis. Louis, yes?
Okay. How many people were there in Bnei Israel when they left Egypt?
Oh, very good question.
I
So,
want to
Rabotai, Louis asked how many... Sorry, Louis, say again.
And also now, crossing when they crossed over the sea, there were 12 for the 12 tribes. How long will it take those 12 tribes to walk across from the one side to the other side?
Okay, how long does it take? I really don't know. But the first question I can answer, and the first question that we're speaking about, that how many people was. So we know the Torah tell us that Bnei Israel, when they left Egypt, there was 600,000 men, that means male, from the age of 20 to the age of 60. What about the rest? Hazal asked, the Mefarshim asked, how many more? There is wife, there is kids, there is elderly, there's many more. There's girls that you didn't count. So Hazal explained that the amount of people that left when Bnei Israel left. Stephen, please mute your thing. You're making noise there, please. Stephen,
so I want to ask you a question, Rabbi Levy. So I want to ask you a question quickly. Okay.
Okay, so what's happened, Louis? It's there was 600,000. Sorry, I just lost it for 1 second. I'm back. So it was 600,000 male. With them, it was the women, the girls, the elderly. You follow what I'm saying? So together, Hazal tell us in Erev Rav, the multination that wasn't part, that they just joined the Jewish people. Together, there was close to 3.5 million to 4 million people crossing the sea. May I answer your question, Louis?
Yeah, that's answered my question. That's why I said they could. It must have taken
so
them.
It was close to 4 million people.
It was going to take them more than a day to cross the sea.
Nachon, but what happened? Just remember, Vayisa otchem al kanfei nesharim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu carried them on what? On a cloud of glory.
Glory,
It was inside the cloud of glory. You follow?
Okay. All right. So they couldn't be harmed.
So Rabbi Levy?
Definitely, they couldn't. Nothing. There was inside the cloud of glory.
Yeah.
Okay, now I see that, Stephen, you wanted to ask a question. Yes, Stephen.
Yes, it says in the Gemara that the maidservant saw what the prophet Ezekiel, something at the Red Sea. What the maidservant saw
what you're referring to
was more than what Ezekiel.
What you're referring to.
The Navi?
Yeah. So what it said, Ra'ata shifha alayam ma shelo ra'a Navi Yeheskel ben Buzi. What does it mean? What the servant maid saw the miracle that happened on the sea, Even the prophet Ezekiel didn't see it.
Wow.
That means that on that time, Stevie, just mute.
Yeah.
After you ask, just mute, so there is no noise. So we see from here that Hazal explained to us that the miracle was that even a servant can see those miracles, that later on, even a prophet like Ezekiel didn't merit to see. Now that's going to lead us to a next thing. And before I continue, I just want to see, anyone want to ask any more question before I continue? No more questions, so I'm going to continue. So the next part that I'm going to speak now, it's something very interesting. Stephen asked, how come that Bnei Israel, when there was in a wilderness, as you saw, as you read, they saw open mind miracle. Akadosh Baruch Hu made for them miracle, one after each other. The 10 plagues. I mean, Akadosh Baruch Hu do miracle. Not only that, splitting the sea. Not only splitting the sea, you know what was the beautiful part about it? That even the babies, the little babies that was in the mother's womb, says Ze Elive and Vehu. That means that they point the finger up to the heaven. That's our God. That's our God that used to protect us when we was in our mother's womb. So Hazal say, how come? The question that many people ask, and that's what I'm going to tackle now. How come that today we don't see those miracles? How come that today that we have all of those situations, we don't see any miracle? So the answer is very simple. When Hazal was telling us that when Bnei Israel was in a wilderness, they saw all of those miracles. You know what's happened? Because they saw all of those miracles, and when they sinned, immediately HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished them. If you look carefully, as they made a mistake, HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished them. Today, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't reveal himself to us, and that's what many people say. Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't do, so many miracles? Let them do one miracle, we'll see it, we believe. No. Because if HaKadosh Baruch Hu will show us a miracle, and we wouldn't learn the lesson, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Has v'Shalom, immediately will punish. So Hazal said to us, you know what's happening? The reason that they saw, because they needed that emunah. They didn't have the shah of the emunah. After they reached to Matan Torah, when they came to Matan Torah, and in Matan Torah they reached the 50th level, okay? From there you'll see that all of those miracles start to disappear. Although that they saw a proper miracle, they still got punished. But slowly, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't show any more life miracle. And that's the reason, because if he shows life miracle, and then Has v'Shalom, Bnei Israel will sin, the punishment is going to come immediately. HaKadosh Baruch Hu not going to have patience with us. That means you sin, I showed you a miracle, you didn't listen, punishment. Today, HaKadosh Baruch Hu have erech ruach with us. That means he's much more compassion. He have a lot of mercy and compassion with his nation. And that's the difference, that we don't see life miracle today. Any question? Yes, Sean, please unmute yourself if you want to ask. Sure.
I'm not sure whether I agree with the last statement. The only reason being is because surely we each see miracles individually, right?
Nachon.
If we had to see everything as a nation, then it would mean something. And then the other thing is yeah, let's just leave it at that, because as you know, like I've seen Hashem's hand firsthand. You know that when I was
okay. So what I'm
trying to do is there is miracles. It's just that, are you saying that it's just we're not seeing the miracles as a nation as one, and that it's revealed?
Okay,
revealed.
So I understand your question. Okay, I understand your question, so I'll answer it. You're referring to private miracle to happen for you. For example, when you was in the Far East, what's happened to you with the tsunami? That's a private miracle that happened to you personally. Although other people was there, Chaim Yankel wasn't with you. Chaim Shmerel wasn't there with you. You agree with me? What happened? You saw the miracle yourself. But when HaKadosh Baruch Hu come and do a miracle in the front of everyone, in the eyes of everyone, that means Chaim Yankel, Chaim Shmerel, Reuven, Shimon, Levy, Yehuda, everyone see all of those miracles, and they still sinning, right? That's when the punishment comes. Ado, let me tell you something else, and you can ask yourself, it's something for you to ask. A person that saw a private miracle that happened to him, and he looked at it, and sometimes he doesn't take it seriously, and has v'shalom, he doesn't follow the pathway of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. After that, he gets a good zetz. He gets a good zetz to wake him up. So it's come to tell us that even if we have a private miracle, and I'm sure each one here that listening to it have a private miracle that he know about it, but when a moment that he done a little bit zigzag, HaKadosh Baruch Hu given him a bit of a nice thing to wake him up. You follow? Chavtuna, yeah. Any other question, Rabotai, before I'm going to continue? Okay, so the second custom that we have on the 7th of Pesach and Eretz Israel, it's obviously the 21st of Nisan. In the Espra, because we have a second day, it's going to be on the 22nd of Nisan. What we call it, Seudat Mashiach. What is Seudat Mashiach? Seudat Mashiach, first of all, been constituted by the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, that's Rabbi Israel ben Eliezer. He born 330 years ago in the Galicia. He started the movement of the Hasidut. All the Hasidut that there is today, he was the guy that started it. He was the rabbi that started Hasidut. And he says that on the 7th day of Pesach, we should have a Seudah, and we should eat matzah, okay? And we call it Seudat Mashiach. Why Dafka Seudat Mashiach? That here with that Seudah that we're eating the matzah, we're trying to waking up the mercy and the compassion of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the same like he done to Bnei Israel in the splitting of the sea, that he redeemed them. Maybe, please God, now that we have Seudat Mashiach, to say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we need you, come, completely redeemed us finally to final redemption. The third custom that there is, and that brought by the fifth Rebbe of the Hasidut of Chabad. His name was Rabbi Shlomo Dober Schneerson. He was the fifth one. And he says that there is a different custom, not only to eat matzah, also to drink 4 cups of wine. And the latest Rabbi, the latest Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Libracha, he said to all the Hasidim of the Lubavitch Hasidim to try to spread it all over the world. And we have to ask ourselves, listen, why do we have to drink 4 cups of wine in the Seudat Mashiach? Is it not enough that we're eating the matzah? What's happening there? So, number one, he said like this, that the main reason that we're drinking 4 cups of wine, it's to remind us the 4 miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu done for us to comfort us. About the 4th cup that we have. Another idea is that the 4th cup, it's to bring Has v'Shalom Poranut. Poranut, it's calamity. That means harsh thing on the enemies of the Jewish people and the Goyim. He said like this, that the 4th cup that we're drinking, it's to wake up HaKadosh Baruch Hu to have mercy and compassion of us from one way to wake him up. Remember the 4th cup that we drink on Pesach. But from the other way, it to wake him up to take a revenge against the enemies of the Jewish people. And now people are gonna ask, who's the enemies? Rabotai, it's not necessary a physical enemies. There is also spiritual, or I wouldn't call them spiritual, but there's enemies, what we call them in our language, demon. To get rid of the evilness that there is in this world. So here we're learning something very interesting. We're learning that the custom of Sa'udat Mashiach is number one, to wake up the mercy and the compassion of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the Jewish people to redeem us. What do? We eat the matzah. We show HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we're still loyal to you. After so many years, 3,333 years that you redeemed us. We're still eating matzah on Pesach like you command us. We didn't forget you, but please, we're trying to wake up the mercy and the compassion that HaKadosh Baruch Hu have with us, that we please God with that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will decide to send Mashiach and he redeemed us. Any question before I continue for the final message? What is that message come to tell us? What's the message behind Shvei of Pesach? Anyone have any question? No question. Okay, so I will continue. So there is two messages on Shvei of Pesach in my opinion. According to what we saw, we learned number one, that in a splitting of the sea, the Jewish people got to such a situation that they split to four groups. Some group wanted to go back to Egypt. You know what? It's better for us to be slaves than to die on the sea, to drown on the sea. The second group said, let's commit suicide. The third group said, no, we're here to fight. We're not going to let it go. We're going to fight. The fourth group said, no, we're going to dive into HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chazal tell us something very important, Rabotai, in the Gemara, Masechet Brachot, page 10, folio 1. And that's one message to us, to teach us something very important. And especially now in those days that we see that there is such a plague all over the world, and the number of people, lo aleinu, that dying every day all over the world. Just remember that the creation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's come to teach us something very important. And Chazal say like this, Afilu heref hadam munachat al tzavaro shel adam al yimna atzmo min harachamim. That means, Chazal tell us that even if a person have a sword on his neck, lo alenu, that means that he have the punishment of death, and he's walking into the galley to be hanged, although so he mustn't give up. He must never give up. That means that the message of Shvei of Pesach come to teach us that sometimes you think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't listen, Has v'shalom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu always listen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu always look at us. But it's our job to understand that we can never give up. We can never lose hope. It's our job to dive into HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because Chazal tell us that there is no such thing, tefillah shelo na'aneh. There is no such thing, a prayer that go up to heaven and HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't listen. He listened. The only problem, because our sin, the divine or the prosperity that he want to bring us, been stopped in the middle, and that's called klipot. Okay. Now, the second message that we learn from here is to teach us that there is certain people in this world that no matter what you do, they will never see, they will never agree, they will never admit that there is Almighty. And we saw that when Pharaoh came and he chased Bnei Israel, and on the 6th day at night, that means the night of the 7th, he caught Bnei Israel just before the Sea of Weeds. All night, he shot arrows. He tried to destroy the Jewish people, throw stone. Chazal said that he cursed. You have no idea how frightened the Jewish people was. And he see that he can't harm them all of that night. In the morning, suddenly, he see that, where is that cloud that I was shooting against? Disappear. He start giving a chase. You see the split to 12 pathway. Wait, shouldn't you say, wait a minute. I received 10 plagues in Egypt. I saw the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not only that, they believe in the Lamb. HaKadosh Baruch Hu shechted their own God that they believe. Okay? Then he took them to the wilderness. The food that they have, it wasn't enough. How suddenly they can survive? Okay? Let's continue. Going to the sea, what do you see? The sea split to 12. Isn't that enough? Red light to tell you, hey, Vachabiki, pass up. Maybe it's the finger of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe the Almighty is involved here. Maybe it's time to say, I'm wrong. I need to admit I'm wrong. No. Hazal tell us something very important, and Hazal say it in Masechet Eruvim in page 19, folio 1. Hazal say like this, Rasha'im afilu al pitho shel gehenam enam chozrim b'tshuva. That means a wicked person, even if he see Gehenna, he is on the front of Gehenna, he will never do tshuva. He will never say a mistake. He'll never do tshuva. And that was the mistake of Pharaoh. That's what Pharaoh done. Pharaoh done that because he didn't want to believe that there is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Pharaoh didn't want to see that the hand of a Kadosh Baruch Hu is there. Pharaoh didn't want to admit that he is Almighty. And it's come to teach us something, Rabotai. We are the chosen nation. And I repeat that the chosen nation. Nachon, that we have a lot of challenges among us. But in that, we have to remember that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us. In Pesach, he made a miracle. Please God, this Shveri of Pesach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'ezrat Hashem, will show us the same miracle that he showed Bnei Israel on the sea and will redeem us. But even if not, we must never lose hope because we are the children of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu never left us be awful and he will never leave us. There is a promise. We just have to correct our deeds, to improve our relationship, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will redeem us. Be'ezrat Hashem, please God, this year, Amen, Ken Yehi Ratzon. I'm going to thanks everyone, and I'm going to mute everyone now, unmute everyone, so everyone can, if they have anything to say, we can all talk now. Everyone is unmute, I hope.
Shkrach, Rob, shkrach.
Okay, any question, Rabotai?
Small
Okay,
question,
good.
maybe.
Yeah, who's asking? Who's asking?
Gavin.
Yes, Gavin. Yes, Bechavod.
Okay, we know in the Torah there's such little detail about the Yam Suf, crossing the Yam Suf. We've got midrashes that there were 12 channels. There were how many people, how that there was like a cloud underneath, or some people say it was like solid underneath. But these are all midrashes. How come the biggest event in Jewish history just is such a small paragraph in the Torah?
I'll ask you something before I answer you. I'm going to answer you like a Jewish person with a question, Gavin. And listen to me carefully. In Ma'amad Har Sinai, when we received the Torah, how much talk there is about that? Very
the same
little.
thing. The two biggest events,
Very little.
probably Yam Suf and Har Sinai.
That's the highest highlight and the biggest events receiving the Torah. Because all of Yetziat Mitzrayim was in a merit of what? That Bnei Israel will receive the Torah where? In Ma'amad Har Sinai.
Right.
Why is it? Now I'm going to answer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he written the Torah, if he will write every little deed, if he will tell Moshe Rabbeinu to write every little deed, we'll have a book that we couldn't carry. We're not going to have 5 books of Moses. We have 1,000 books. So that's why we have the oral Torah. We have the written Torah, for example, that tell us, listen, you have to put tefillin. What color? What size? Are they round? Are they square? What kind?
I understand.
That's a Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't say. Why? Because we should look in the Midrashim. Because if the Torah will give us everything, then we wouldn't look, we wouldn't learn. All of those that we're learning from the oral Torah. The oral Torah is a Mishnah, is a Gemara.
Right.
Sorry, it's a Midrashim. It's the Braitot that we have, that Hazal wrote for us. All of those beautiful things, we have to understand that that's the oral Torah there for us. That means HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted us, you and me and Chaim Yankel and Chaim Shmerel, to search for it, to learn it, and to teach it and to pass it. Because if you just read it, you're never going to learn it. But when you learn and you search for it, it's engraved inside your brain in one of your cells as a memory.
Rob, I've got a question.
Sure. Who's that?
It's
Just
Mark
tell me who's
speaking.
that. Yes, Mark. Bravo.
Okay, so as Gavin said, the Torah ascribes very little description to the big events that happened to the Jewish people. Then why are so many lines given on Eliezer's discussion with Lavan when he went to get a bride?
Oh,
There's
that's
lots and lots
very
of
good.
it goes over it twice.
Millions of things.
It goes over it twice.
So
his discussion.
Yeah. Why? If you look what's happened, the story with Eliezer and Lavan, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu put it to tell Moshe, to describe it, it's very interesting. First of all, we have to see what Avraham Avinu told Eliezer, his servant. When you're going to find a wife to my son, you make sure about certain things. Why? Because Hazal explained that the Torah come and put a lot of specific there, that when a husband meet a wife, when a husband married a wife, he have to look at certain things. Many people that look at the exterior, later on, the Torah, it's never stopped. And that's what Hazal put the emphasis on when? Eshet Yefat Toar. She repeat that thing again. What did Avraham Avinu say to Eliezer? Where are you going? You're not going to take a woman to my son from the land of Canaan. You're going to go where? You're going to go to my land. Where's my land? Iraq of today. Why dafka there? Because morally, they have no problem. They may be idol worshippers, but morally, they were still better than the Canaanites.
True.
Canaanite.
Okay, but the
You
Torah has
understand?
given it a lot of lines of description.
Why? Because it's to teach us how important that the husband should search, a man should search a decent woman, not to look at the exterior. Exterior of a human being is not what there is inside the heart. And that will help also Gavin to understand why HaKadosh Baruch Hu tried to teach us that the mitzvah, ben adam lehavero, very important. And that's what I want you to put emphasis on. Okay? HaKadosh Baruch Hu say, if you sins to me, that's between you and me. I can forgive you. But between you and your fellow friends, if you hurt him, I can't forgive you. How it can forgive if you hurt someone's feeling? By asking sorry.
But
You understand?
I'm still back on the same thing, which still bothers me. Okay, take Bilam, the story of Bilam. Great detail how the donkey walked in the path, yet we don't even really know. It's only a midrash who jumped into the sea first. We don't even know where we crossed the sea.
I didn't understand. You talking about Bilam and then you go into the sea. What do you mean?
Yeah, so
About,
Bilam is a
about,
great detailed story
no, but
of a
Bilam,
small event of a donkey's.
Yeah, but if you look at that Bilam, the Torah come and tell us, why did Bilam, first of all, if you look, the parsha called Parashat Balak. Why they call it Parashat Balak? Did you ask yourself? Balak was a wicked person. Balak gone and hired who? He gone and hired Bilam to curse us. So how come that you give him a parsha? So Hazal explained
How come
that
it's in
from
such
here,
detail?
but first let's understand how a wicked person get a merit to have a parsha and a Torah. That's what you must ask. Hazal come and tell you on that merit that he hated the Jewish people and didn't try to hide it. That's a decent goy. That means he's not a good goy, but he was honest. And honesty is very important. Now the Torah tell us about Bilam because the goyim one day can come and say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, listen, you given the Jewish people such a great prophet, Moshe Rabbeinu. What did you give us? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to them, I've given you a prophet not less than Moshe Rabbeinu. It's just that your prophet decide to go and to use all the negativity that there is in the world, all the tum'ah that there is in the world. When I say tum'ah, it's all the impurity, all the disgusting thing. And the first one to marry his donkey was Bilam. So you take a great guy like Bilam, the Torah come and tell us, that one day they can never change. You follow?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll follow, but
Yes,
that's not
Louis?
addressed to my question. I'll have to
Rov,
Yeah.
we don't even have to look any further than what we're living in at the moment. Look at Eretz Israel today, with all the Arabs around us that they outnumber us by hundreds of thousands. They could try and annihilate us. But Hashem's hand is on Eretz Israel, and it's protecting our people. And we see it daily. We see it daily. And
What do you mean you see it daily?
Quit.
Tell me, and here in 1994, wasn't a miracle for the Jewish people, for the white people?
Sure.
Every day we have a miracle here.
I
You know
know.
what I'm saying? Every day is a miracle. These 10,000 of missiles going to Israel, huh?
Correct.
A guy got injured, a house got destroyed, you know, here and there.
Yeah.
One missile, one airplane in America destroyed 9/11. Two airplanes changed the history. They changed the history of the world.
History, sure. But
So
people
we'll
don't, they don't look at the miracles
we
that
have
are
to look.
around
That's
us.
exactly it. We just have to open our eyes and to see what HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing for us. Shakor. Rabotai, I would like to take the opportunity to thank each one of you individually and to wish you all Hag Kasher V'Sameach. And may please God, we all merit to see Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily. Please God, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have compassion and mercy on us tomorrow, and we're all going to go together to Eretz Israel and celebrate the beautiful of Bet HaMikdash together.
Amen. Amen.
All the best.
Shukayach.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
I've got to actually